Religious Rights of Prison Inmates, Part 2. A more popular and rapidly spreading Buddhist practice in the US prisons has emerged as a result of lawsuits by inmates themselves to assert their religious rights. One Buddhist inmate, Sarika, who was from Ohio, requested help from Reverend Shuho Mai Bonazu of Cloudwater Zendo in Cleveland, Ohio in 1996. The issue was looked into, but the teachers' meeting with the group was delayed without explanation. After many attempts to meet as a group, Sarika, the inmate who had originally asked the Shuho's help, filed a suit against the prison administration that had blocked access to Buddhist teachers. Finally, at the intervention and direction of the court, the issue was resolved and the Buddhist teacher Shuho started meeting prisoners and helped form a Buddhist group within the facility. An early setback came from a ruling in 1990 by the U.S. Supreme Court in a case called Oregon Employment Division versus Smith. In this decision, the court ruled that the Free Exercise Clause of First Amendment of the Bill of Rights does not apply to laws that are valid, reasonable, and generally applicable. This blocked the attempts of many inmates to seek Buddhist precepts within the prison system. Finally, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, passed by the U.S. Congress in 1993, helped restore the religious rights of people incarcerated by the state, but the court ruled that the RFRA was unconstitutional. Despite such obstacles, from 1993 to 1997, Buddhist inmates used the RFRA to get some positive responses from administrators. A Texas RFRA case was even taken before the Supreme Court. Finally, several members of Congress rewrote the bill and President Clinton signed the resulting Liberty Protection Act (RLPA) into law in 2000. Before RLPA, inmates would argue on grounds of discrimination, indicating that Christian inmates are allowed to use chapel while other religions are not permitted to have such services. After the passage of RLPA, inmates' demands forced the prison staff to respond, yet aggressive techniques continued to be used to dissuade Buddhist volunteers from coming to prison. They were made to wait long hours before paperwork and photographs were taken to schedule a meeting with inmates. Sometimes meetings were cancelled without prior information and volunteers had to come back another day. This unaccountable power of prison staff to change the rules anytime on a whim creates difficult obstacles for the Buddhist volunteers who face indifference and apathy. Lack of understanding towards meditation practice and general discomfort by prison staff towards silent sitting poses further difficulties. Finally, Donaldson Correction Facility had 2 10-day retreats at certain intervals. In each retreat, new inmates were exposed to Buddhist meditation technique. They benefited from this practice in a big way, and it reflects in their comments, which were recorded later. As one inmate has expressed, whose name is John Johnson, he attended the first retreat organized at the prison facility in 1989. John was arrested as a habitual offender and sentenced to life without parole. He was in his 50s when he attended this retreat. He was in Donaldson since 1992. After doing retreat, he wrote, quote, "I am very happy to have a practice that has opened my heart to Dhamma. A very great opportunity came to Donaldson facility," unquote. Another inmate, Willie Carroll, who was 44 years old when he did this retreat. He was first sent to adult prison at the age of 16. He lived in drug recovery unit at Donaldson since 1998. Quote, "Seeing the spiritual enhancement on lost souls such as I, meditating day in and out in seclusion, was something like standing before God, telling Him everything I had done, and genuinely being sorry for it. All my past surfaced, the guilt, the shame, the love, and the moments of anger." He further says, To this date, Vipassana has offered and continues to bring peace of mind to me. Even and especially in times of seemingly total despair, I have learned to adjust my way of thinking to life as it is and not as wanted. He did Vipassana retreat twice at Donaldson. After the retreat, he kept on doing meditation daily. And on Saturdays, he would sit with the group for a couple of hours. Majority of inmates tried to continue their practice with weekly sittings till it was discontinued by authorities. In July 2002, Vipassana program was shut down by Corrections Department. No explanation was provided why this was being done. Inmates were not allowed to meet together and meditate. Also, new Vipassana courses were not allowed to be offered. The 10-day retreats were discontinued and all weekly meetings were cancelled too. Volunteers realized though teachings were provided in a non-sectarian way, still they were coming from Buddhism. This could be the reason for discontinuation of the program. At this point, no other programs were cancelled. The inmates who participated in the meditation practice were called Dhamma brothers. They showed tremendous calm at the discontinuation of program, reflecting on the Buddhist teaching of impermanence. They claimed things are bound to change because nothing is permanent, indicating cancellation of Vipassana retreat and waiting for another change to take place was part of law of impermanence. Still, it goes without saying that this move by correction service became a setback to their practice. Bruce Stewart, one of the teachers for these retreats, claims that the 2 retreats at Donaldson facility were truly historic. Offering such a program is a good beginning, however, its success depends on those inmates who sign up for it. If enough enrollment is not done, then course gets cancelled. In 2004, a similar retreat for women in Vermont prison was cleared by authorities and was offered but had to be cancelled later due to not enough enrollment. Tihar Jail former Inspector General of Prisons, Dr. Kiran Bedi, did her part too, and she continued her effort. While posted in United Nations, she showed a documentary about Vipassana program at United Nations. Correction commissioners from Boston and California also showed interest in Vipassana program. There was clearly sign of progress and interest. However, it becomes clear that interest of authorities in correctional services is essential for this program to go on. A new warden at Donaldson in 2005 and a new commissioner at the Alabama Department of Corrections showed interest in the Vipassana program. In January 2006, a 3-day refresher course was offered again for the prisoners. John Johnson, who did this retreat again in February 2006, wrote, quote, with all these years of doing time, never have I witnessed a detoxification process so powerful, so real as what I have experienced with these Vipassana courses, unquote. These retreats had their effect on prison guards too. In time, guards became relaxed about meditation meetings, and for weekly meetings, permission was not required. Now inmates met twice a week without objection from authorities. While inmates are locked away, some kind of program which can bring change in their thought process is required. Buddhist meditation can become a strong rehabilitation program for those who are incarcerated and locked away. In 2007, statistics indicates incarceration in the United States was increased by 400 persons since 1980. US has only 5% of the total world population, but surprisingly it has 25% of all prisoners. Clearly a reform is needed. The 3 strikes law is instrumental in bringing new inmates in prison, which resulted in prison overcrowding. Due to massive prison overcrowding, 700,000 prisoners were released from prison in 2007. In such a situation, rehabilitation of inmates becomes necessary. The root of crime needs to be evaluated rather than just treating the symptoms. Their status as a prisoner is a setback itself. promoting unequal treatment from authorities. Through Vipassana program, inmates were able to see their humanity and could see the potential of change deep inside their being. The fundamental change within inmates' thought and being can become instrumental in bringing a noticeable change in the prison system. Please go to part 3.